Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Student, and welcome to this episode of Cairo Secures Let's Chat. Today we have a very special program. Usually, when I'm on, I'm teaching with a slide deck, and I want to share with you different things about MRI or how chiropractic adjustment works. But today, I have something extremely important to share with you and talk to you, and it's about utilization and chiropractic utilization. And it starts with your practice. And we're going to talk about growing your practice, which will grow chiropractic. We're going to talk about helping chiropractic break out of that perpetual 7 to 10% utilization cycle in our industry. There are so many different things we need to chat about. How do you get MDs to bypass physical therapy to go to a chiropractor? How to get a lawyer to bypass MDs to go to a chiropractor and refer to us first. All of these things are important to position yourself, not just for 2022, but beyond. It's not business as usual. Today, I have a special guest that I've asked to join us, Dr. Tim Weir from Raleigh, North Carolina. Hi, Tim. How are you?
Hey, Mark.
Tim is I'm happy and I'm proud to call him a friend, and someone I've worked with for many years, and we laugh and we share and we make fun of each other, and he keeps reminding me that I'm older than him. Thank you very much. But Tim is one of the most honest, ethical, nicest people I've ever met in my life. My only regret is he lives in Raleigh and I live in New York. I wish we
Yeah,
lived closer so we can hang out together. That would be a lot of fun.
that would
Um,
be awesome.
but that would be incredibly awesome. But about 5 years sitting up, we probably worked together about 8 years ago is when we started. But about 5 years
Yeah.
ago, you hit some tough times, loving chiropractic, wanting to leave. So maybe you could briefly tell your story.
Well, I graduated from Palmer in 1981 and got out, failed in practice again, and then got hooked in as an associate and kind of learned some ropes and then started my own practice. And at that point that you're talking about here, I had already been practicing for a long time. And I bought into to a couple of things. And one of those things I bought into was the MDDC practice. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to save my life, and this is going to save my practice. Wow, horrible, horrible, horrible. I mean, we built an incredible practice. It was huge. Got on the front cover of the American Chiropractic magazine. Don't ever do that because they'll come after you at every subpoena from that point on. But when I finally talked to you, Mark, and said, "Listen, this thing is dragging me down," you told me we just got to get rid of it. And so I got rid of it, and actually the practice soared. I saw more people in chiropractic at that point than I did in the MDDC practice, and I'm having a blast doing it. But it took me hooking in with you and not becoming just a chiropractor, but becoming a doctor, somebody who could listen to somebody and figure things out. And it is the academy program that put me back on track. And I had looked into things like you got to do the Colossus thing, and I did that for a while. And just if you haven't figured it out by now, there's whole bunch of bull crap in chiropractic, and I just got tired of the bull crap and wanted to give up and just be done with chiropractic. And then I got hooked into becoming credentialed and doing all the programs through the academy, and it literally saved my life, changed my life, and that's why I'm here today, and loving. I get up every morning at 4:30. I'll be turning 65 this year, and I get up every morning at 6:30. Start my day with reading some Napoleon Hill and some meditation, and and then studying, and then I get to the office. We open our office at 6:30 every morning, and I tell you, I'm on fire. I'm more on fire now than I was 20, 30 years ago. And I'm so grateful for the steps that I did to become credentialed and become a real doctor finally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's put our slide up and take a look at what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to segue into some of those things you talked about, Tim. But, Tim, if we just look at your credentials and the bullets up top we've talked about, remember, when you grow your practice, you grow chiropractic. When you grow your practice, you help chiropractic's utilization. And I've heard a myriad of things where, oh, we're at 10, 15%. That's what percentage of the population we're seeing. It's all nonsense. Breaking into all of these different things. Um, I've heard every gimmick out there, but Tim, you're a fellow in primary spine care and joint providership with the State University of New York at Buffalo School of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences, and in conjunction with Cleveland University College of Chiropractic. You're MRI interpretation review qualified, you're trauma qualified, you're primary spine care qualified. You've got all of these real credentials, and every course is co-credentialed through both chiropractic and medical academia. Now, if we talk about your journey, and let's take this screen, this slide down. If we just talk about your journey, Tim, um, how long did it take you to earn all of those credentials?
Well, sometimes I pussyfooted around with it, and it took me a little longer than it should have. But it took me basically 2, 3 years if I were to put it all together, to finish all of that. And I'm telling you, it isn't easy. We're used to going to a seminar on the weekend, sleeping through it, and then getting course credit after that, and that's not how it is here. It's really work, but you learn this stuff. I'm telling you. You go into a room now with. I go into a room now with a. In fact, I was just in with some orthopedists and some neurosurgeons the other night, and you're right up to par. I mean, you know exactly what they're talking about, and they know what you're talking about, and it puts you on a level playing field.
Well, when you say put you on par with them, could you expand that a little bit more?
Well, if we're going to be honest and upfront here, I'm going to tell you something. Before I went to the academy, I don't think I had maybe 2 to 3 MRIs. That's all I ordered in my whole practice career. I just didn't know. And the more doctors I talk to who are a little bit older, like we are, and that's a common thing. They just don't know. And so when I would get into and again, it's the old Chiro 1 step, 2 step that you talk about. You get in somebody's vicinity, and they start talking to you, and we've got to the point where we know how to get their attention onto something else, so that we're not talking about what they want to talk about. But now I get in the room with them, and we're talking on the same level. We're talking the same nomenclature. We're talking about the same things as far as medicine goes. And it literally changes how you practice when you do that.
Does that
Uh, you
change?
know,
Does that change how
go-
you deliver chiropractic care, or just how you look at chiropractic?
uh, as far as the chiropractic care, I'm a little bit more careful who I provide that chiropractic care to. I want to check everything out before I do some anteriors or do whatever I'm going to do. But no, it's still the same old chiropractic care. In fact, I was telling my staff yesterday, the most important thing for us is what happens in the exam room. It's not so much what happens in the chiropractic office. Because insurance companies don't care if you do an anterior, or they don't care if you do a HIO. That has nothing to do with them. They don't give a flip. Neither do attorneys. What they're concerned with is what happens in the orthopedic exam, the neurological exam, the consultation. What am I going to do when I find the findings that I find? Am I going to order an MRI? Am I going to send the patient off for a neurological consult or a neurosurgical consult? Those are all things that I picked up, and I'm telling you, I probably am. Well, I know that I am the number one referrer of uh, the MRI center here in town. And I never would have done that if I hadn't taken the MRI courses through the academy. Uh, I tell you, you walk out of those you feel like you're walking on a cloud, because you know that you know that you know, and that's what's important.
how has this equated to your bottom line finances in your practice?
Wow. Yeah. We went from barely being able to pay bills to now, I mean, we're buying land, we're buying different things. Um, it has completely taken away the finances. And that's really, really important, because if that's laying heavy on you, man, you can't sleep at night. You can't think. Every time you want to do something, that pumps you in the face, and you're looking at that instead of the amazing future that we all can have. So, did it make a change? Yeah, my wife loves me now.
Do you ever worry about getting a new patient again?
No, that's the fun thing about it, is that you become really picky. If they don't have a police report, or if they don't have something else, I just don't waste my time. I don't take them. And I don't take these small accidents. I want to focus in on those people who my credentials can help the most. So it has made a world of difference with that. We
Uh,
had, and you know what? When people talk about December, they say December was a really bad month. You know, New patients go down, collections go down. I had my largest month ever last month. It's crazy.
if you don't mind me asking, how many new PI cases only did you get in December?
And that's all I treat is PI. I don't treat Medicare, Medicaid, Blue Cross, anything else. We had 76 new ones last month.
And you attribute, so let me just connect the dots because it's easy in your head. So when you thought the
Oh, it's
solution,
not.
your mind is a very dangerous place. It's easy for me because I get the 30,000 foot view of you. It's easy
Yes.
for me because I speak to you almost every day.
Yeah.
It's easy for me because I've kind of guided your your program, your academics, your I've managed how you've managed your practice only because
Right.
I've done this, for so long with so many people. So you started looking for Colossus, it didn't work. You started the MDDC, that wasn't the answer. Then you went back into your practice and just was adjusting, your numbers went up because you became a chiropractor again. Then you
Right.
started with the academics and learning about trauma care, patient management, MRI interpretation, um, connective tissue pathology, spinal biomechanics, all the things that are vertically integrated with trauma care because that's what your passion is. Then,
Right.
as a result of that, you started communicating and working with medical specialists, not primaries, but specialists, orthos,
Right.
neuros, neurosurgeons, pain management doctors, ER doctors, etc., where you've got those relationships and they communicate with you because you're talking about case management, slice acquisition, sequences, the thinner, thick levels of slices with MRI, how you're triaging the patient out, when you're treating a patient versus not, versus a cord compression, a myelomalacia, a cord edema, all these other different comorbidities that you're now aware of that you're co-managing with the medical specialist. And conversely, now because of your credentials through medical academia, you are one of the first three doctors in the United States to be certified as a fellow through medical school. So you are certified as a fellow in primary spine care through the State University of New York at Buffalo, Jacobs School of Medicine, Office of Continuing Medical Education, and joint providership with Cleveland University, Kansas City College of Chiropractic. You're the first of three to do that. So those are the credentials you bring to the table. Now, lawyers can use you. It's just simple. It's not
Yeah.
will they use you, it's can they use you. And now they know they can bring you to the witness stand. And you have no fear in doing that. Your reports, your documentation is pristine. And your documentation is pretty easy right now because we worked on documentation made easy. And we worked on diagnosing being consistent with your care, your treatment, and what the complaints are. You're practicing old time chiropractic. Your patients come in and you adjust them, all of them. I mean, it's just that doesn't change. You're adjusting them. It's just how you
Right.
manage them changed a little bit. How you document has become more thorough but easier. And now you're communicating because you've positioned yourself in front of the referral sources, which is lawyers, medical specialists, urgent cares, emergent. You turned down an emergency room to work with. You turned them down.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, it's just too much. Could you handle another 30 or 40 new cases a month right now?
Yeah.
Please, God, strike me dead now. Send them. But
No,
it's
but
it's just,
you know what? When you're faced with the challenge, you just find the answer to the challenge. And so when faced with that, we would find just the answer and just boom, go that way. Um, I really believe my greatest years, my greatest advances, my greatest wealth is ahead of me because what I have invested into myself the past 8 years, and I'm excited about it.
it's funny. We talk about dealing with medical providers, and you chat with them. Why in God's name would they bypass physical therapists, which they've been used to doing for almost a
Right.
century, and now dealing with chiropractors? Well, part of that is getting to understand and communicate Blanchett's work. And if you look at Blanchett, Rivard, Dion, Hogg Johnson, and Steenstra in 2017 from the Journal of Occupational Rehabilitation, I'm reading from a research article. They wrote that reported that medical care ended spinal related compensation 12% longer than chiropractic, and physical therapy required 239% more time to end full compensation versus chiropractic, and physical therapy took 313% more time versus chiropractic to end partial compensation, where medicine end took 20% longer. In addition, we look at opiates, and according to, I'll look up the reference in a moment, but it shows that as a result of these studies and many others, outcome based studies have positioned chiropractic to be considered the best first line treatment, primary spine care provided for mechanical lesions. Whedon et al., and that was in, let me see when Whedon did that. Whedon reported this in 2018. Whedon et al. Reported the annual charge per person filling an opioid prescription was 74% lower with chiropractic care versus medicine and physical therapy. They also reported the adjusted likelihood of filling a prescription opioid analgesic was 55% lower for the recipients of chiropractic care versus medicine and physical therapy. So all
Right.
across the board, I mean, it's just simple. We talk about non-specific back pain. Well, there's a tool out there called Simverta. It actually demonstratively shows where the primary lesion is in the spine. So when we're dealing with these medical counterparts and we share with them what's going on, there is no such thing as non-specific back pain. It's very specific. Tim, have you ever had the opportunity to have that conversation? I haven't asked you this up front or screened you. I'm just curious. Have you ever had that question with a surgeon or pain management about back pain being specific? There's no such thing as non-specific back pain?
Well, they don't. They're kind of in. They don't know. Um, and so for us to talk to them, to them, it's just totally out of the picture. Um, and to them, when we come in and talk, it's a bright light for them because they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the triage. MD, either primary or specialist, sees the back pain patient, sends sends him to the orthopedic surgeon. First, they give him a prescription for pain meds, usually non-opiate. Then they send him to the ortho. They do an MRI. There's no fracture, tumor, infection, or herniation. Nothing. Give them an opiate. Send them to physical therapy. Now, we just read the research results that physical therapy really doesn't work for spine. Then they do a course of physical therapy. They go back to the ortho, gives them another
Right.
prescription for physical therapy, another prescription for opiates. Then their physical therapy fails. That's the second course of physical therapy. Now the benefits are exhausted. Now they go back to the PT, the orthopedic surgeon. The orthopedic surgeon doesn't send them back to the PT for the third time, sends them to the pain management doctor for legalized drug addiction to put them on something to take care of their pain to manage. Now they're hooked. Now what
Right.
happens is they go for one or two or three prescriptions of opiates. They're hooked. They cut them off because they're in the system. Then they go to the emergency room. They're in the system. They can't get opiates. Then they'll give them Robaxin or some nonsensical Medrol dose packs. None of those things work. Then they go
Right.
to the walk-in medicals, think they're going to beat the system, but they're in the national database. They cannot
Yeah.
get the opiates. Now what do? They go to the street. Well, here's your answer. A hit of Oxy on the street is about $100. A hit of heroin on the street is $10. Both take care of the pain temporarily. Where are they going to turn to? And that's a piece, not a big piece perhaps, but a piece of the puzzle of what's happening in our society. So we actually play a very important role from the get-go on quelling that opiate issue and the opiate addiction problem, but we answer what's going on with pain and spine. We should be you just got a fellowship in primary spine care. I mean, you're a fellow and certified through medical school. There's only 3 doctors right now in the world who've earned that. The program was just released a little while ago, and knowing about what the requirements were previously, you started taking them a while ago. So you
Yes.
were one of the smarter ones, and your courses were accepted. So having all of this let's talk about primary spine care, because by the way, that is the solution to utilization. When we market, historically, we go to the public. I mean, you do health fairs and ads and leaflets. What crazy things have you done? Because I've stood in fairs and football fields in a booth with a crooked spine and handed out crooked pens.
I never did a free chicken dinner, but I heard that was a big puller.
Jim Sigafus in Monongahela, Pennsylvania. He did free chicken dinners, spaghetti, and a bluegrass band, and they came by the busful. And I met Ziggy, and I spoke to him, and he adjusted 650 people that day from the bus.
Crazy.
The bus, from the adjustment to the spaghetti dinner, the bluegrass band. That's what he did. That was in the 60s.
But those old guys were willing to stand up for what they believed in.
Yes.
And so are we. I mean,
Yeah.
we're standing up for something that not everybody's for. Not everybody's for getting a fellowship from a medical school. I am. Because I want to be the best of the best.
Here's the thing, and that's a very good subject to discuss for a moment. What's the difference in my office? But listen, I've been through the gamut of chiropractic. I saw 650 patients a week. I was ultra straight. I hate that term, by the way. I even put,
Yeah.
I took the electric outlets out of my office so my colleagues wouldn't make fun of me that I was a mixer, which is the stupidest thing in the world. Then I broke my back. Treating patients, 2 compression fractures. 650 patients is 1,300 side postures a week. And I laid on the floor for 3 months. I couldn't move. I was in agony.
Right.
Finally, someone came over with 2 Advil and a stim machine. And it was like the devil incarnate showed up at my door. I wanted to throw him out. My wife said, you take these 2 Advil and you put that machine on you. I can't listen to you whine anymore, or I'm not going to help. I'm not going to take care of you. I kind of had no choice. And you know what? I put the stim machine on. I took 2 Advil, and an interesting thing happened. The pain went away. I could function.
Wow.
And at that point in time, there's a word in Jewish called rachmanis. Rachmanis means the deepest of sympathy from the bottom of my toes for every patient that I adjusted, that I could have helped feel better along the way. And that really opened my eyes to there was more than just an adjustment. And almost everybody got better with the adjustment, but they could have felt better along the way.
Right.
And then I went into, and then I started adding modalities and rehab to my office. And then I started consulting and I stopped practicing totally. I couldn't adjust anymore. So I shut my offices down and I started doing consulting nationally. And and then my wife had got a diagnosis with cancer. She had cancer 3 times. She's fine now. But I had to find the right cancer surgeon for her. So I hunted and I'm in New York. I went from Boston to New York to Philly to Washington. If you can't find the right cancer surgeon between any of those 4 hubs, you can't find them anywhere in the world. We found someone in New York City in Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. I called to make an appointment. They said, it's going to take 6 months to get an appointment. 6 months. 6 months. I said, she'll be dead by then. Well, I'm sorry, the doctor's full. Then I had to play the old game. Who do I know where? Politics, friends, favors, you name it.
Sure.
I pulled every string I could, and it took me 2 weeks. I got her an appointment. The guy saved her life, and that's just the moral of the story. But she had some issues going along. We had to find the right hematologist. We had to go to Harvard. We had to go to LA. We had to go here. We had to go there. And all along, I couldn't get an appointment. And it dawned on me, why aren't our referral sources running after us the way I run after that cancer doctor? And it had nothing to do with the fact that we look at cancer. Nothing.
Right.
I mean, Tim, when you treat patients, you help them, you give them their life back. They can't function if they're in pain. They can't function, and no, it's giving people their life back. What makes Tim special? He's handsome. I was the former president of my state organization. In politics, you have a wonderful person. None of that matters. So
Right.
what I realized, it was credentials and knowledge. And why do I want to tap into the public where we've been perpetuating for decades, almost a half a century, I think, since this statistic was maintained? Why do I want to fight for 7% utilization or even 10%? I want to tap into the medical community who sees 99% of our society. So you, without giving up your chiropractic identity, you adjust every patient that comes into your office. All you've done is learn how to better diagnose, triage, and manage your case by understanding that when you have a ligament that tears, what we call a sprain, collagen and elastin are in there, the fibroblasts activate. After puberty, they can no longer produce elastin, only collagen, and now that tissue grade is weaker, it's stiffer, and it creates joint laxity, and now that person's going to have a perpetual problem. And through Wolff's Law, the bones are going to degenerate and remodel based upon the piezoelectric effect, and if the bones remodel, your patient's gone from corrective care to patient management. And understanding thin slice technology, you can acquire an accurate MRI interpretation and understanding the relationship between the disc, the cord, the root, whether there's inflammation in the cord or bleeding up to myelomalacia or any type of cauda equina issue. You can now have that relationship and conversation with the surgeon who'll say, you're the guy I want to manage the case. Now,
Huge.
Tim, how many referrals do you get from the medical establishment now?
Well, I mean, I get calls probably 4, 5, 6 times a week from the urgent cares. They don't know what to do with the people. Neurosurgeons sending people in. So it has completely changed how I practice with that too. They're really looking. They're really good people. So they're between a rock and a hard place, and they're looking for help too. So they're looking for somebody who can help them with these cases that they don't know what to do with them, and that's where we jump in with our knowledge of what we have. It's amazing. It's an amazing way to practice.
Yeah, it's just, Fred Barge years ago wrote a book, Practice Without Fear, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it was about understanding, having belief in the chiropractic adjustment, which you do and I do. We've lived with it. We've both been doing this for 40 years. We both graduated the same year, 81. We've been doing this we're on our 41st year, doing it a long time. Age gives us perspective. We see where the profession has been. And I spend every single day communicating with doctors in 49 states, not 50. I can't get North Dakota for some reason. With lawyers,
Nobody's
surgeons, I speak to people every day and I do a serious amount of market research. And you are the model for what needs to be in our profession because you don't give up your chiropractic identity. You don't. But you
Right.
don't talk about that identity. When you go to a surgeon, they don't talk about their, well, let's see, I do a double Trendelenburg, uh, triple blade Schick incision on the, they don't talk about their
Right.
technique. They don't talk about their philosophy. If you have a tumor, just send them to us. We'll diagnose it. We'll
Yeah.
see if we can treat it medically. If not, we could take it out. We'll get rid of it. We'll see what we could do. You want to go alternative? That's up to you. But you want to come to see what I can do? Same thing with you, Tim. There's patient has a pain. I identified it. It's not non-specific. I'm going to get a thin slice MRI. I'm going to identify it. If there's nothing I can take care of, it's going to go right to the surgeon. Because let me tell you, if there's significant cortic compression and ensuing neurological deficit distal to the level of lesion, that's a myelopathy, and that patient belongs in a neurosurgeon's office. You
Right.
know, we don't treat everyone and everything. And when you're part of the team in the medical community, you know what? You could take your philosophy, which means the study of truth, by the way, according to the late Frank Zolli, who shoved that up my nose. He said, philosophy is the study of truth, Dr. Student. Study the truth. Well, folks, the final word, and Tim, I'll let you get the final word after this. The final word is the truth. You can sit in your office on your high horse, as my father would say, pontificating about how you're the most philosophical, you're the most this, you're the most that, on your small practice because you can't get enough patients. Or you can have the exact same treatment in your office and be collaborating with all these doctors because you're smarter, you're well credentialed, you're tapped into that 99%. And like you had 76 new patients in December. If I said you could take another 20, 30, 40 cases, you said yes, you'll figure it out. You ain't figuring it out so quickly. You're going to need a whole lot more help. But the point is you could do the same thing on more patients than less patients. That's it.
Right.
Same thing on more than less, only by becoming smarter and formally credentialed. That's how you save the chiropractic profession. That's how you add chiropractic colleges and more students in there because it's all hands on deck. You need a lot more chiropractors in your pipeline in your offices. I'm going to give you the last word before I thank ChiroSecure.
Well, to me, it's again, and I keep saying it. You've said it before, Mark. Being the best of the best, and I don't care how old you are. People say, "Well, I'm 65. That would take me 5 years. I'm going to be 70." And you're going to be 70 anyways. You might as well do it. But just step out of the boat and do this. And Mark, I'm telling you, 70% of my patients have never been to a chiropractor before. In one of my past lives, I was a pastor. I don't know if you knew that, Mark, but I would say we had church growth this past month, and it was people hopping from another church into my church, and then from this church. That's not how we are. We don't have a bunch of people who've been to chiropractors and now they're jumping into our boat. There's 70% are brand new, never been to a chiropractor before. That's what I want. That's the audience that I want to go after. And you can do it too. You just got to jump on board.
Tim, thank you so much. It's been great. And again, I'd like to thank ChiroSecure for giving us this platform because my goal, we love chiropractic and we want to increase utilization and help people that have never had access to chiropractic at all. Because if they're not in your office, what can you do? Nothing. When they're in your office, do whatever you want. Practice how you choose. It doesn't matter. Get smarter, get credentialed, increase your practice, increase your income, increase chiropractic utilization. Again, ChiroSecure, thank you very much. We'll see you next time, folks.